Hello there, and welcome to Gooner U, where there are no degrees because the learning never stops. I'm Dove, a substitute professor here today at Gooner U, and my father Israel, no relation, is a guest TA for today. Enter our classroom as we discuss the week's news involving Arsenal, Premier League, Champions League, international football, and sometimes MLS, because we're Americans. This week, Arsenal played Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup quarterfinal, and then Brighton in the Premier League. Hello, Dad.
Hello, Dove. I'm waiting to see how I'm going to break the news to your mother that we're not related.
That's a running joke with Andrew Clavin and his son Spencer, and I've shamelessly stolen it because I think it's very funny, and I laugh every time they do it.
I'm big fans of the Clavins, so that's okay.
I noticed you found a jersey in your closet that has red and white, so good job.
Yes. 3 guesses where I'm from.
Yeah, it's well documented on this show, my Chicago heritage, talking about the Cubs and more recently the Bulls, so that's nothing new. In a minute, you are going to be treated to a new occasional segment on this show that we are calling Junior Gooners, which will feature my son's thoughts on the week's matches, which he watched both with me, so that was nice. So you watched both matches with me this week. Did you have some questions or things you wanted to tell me about?
Yeah.
Okay. What was first?
The last match against Brighton.
Yeah.
Why does the referee have not green, yellow, purple? That actually makes kind of sense because red plus blue equals purple.
That's funny. No, that isn't how they decided on purple. But what the process basically works like is when they schedule a match, they know who's going to be the home team and who's going to be the away team, right? The home team gets to pick what they want to wear. And then the away team gets to pick what their clash kit is. So they pick from their away jersey or their third kit, right? And then they find something for the officials that doesn't clash with either of them, right? So the colors that we typically might see would be like a light blue or something, or some of the other colors like a yellow, like kind of like you're wearing in your Raya kit. We see them wearing stuff like that. In this case, those would have clashed against Brighton. Like the blue definitely would have. And I don't know, maybe they just felt purpley. I'm not sure. But yeah, it was interesting because that's one of your team's colors is purple, right?
Yeah.
So is there anything else about Arsenal that you wanted to share with us for this week?
Yeah, I have something to say to Fortnite.
Oh yeah? What?
Thank you to Fortnite because they made Arsenal wheels on the car and not Tottenham.
Oh. That shows some good judgment on their part, huh?
Good job, Fortnite.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. Now go to bed. All right, let's get straight to this week's first match where we played Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup quarterfinal. The final score was an interesting one where we drew 1-1 and then ended up winning 8-7 on penalties. So that was quite a match.
Yeah, very exciting. It was a great. It was nice to see them not end in a tie, and
more like the American sports you're used to.
Right. And I think I've been following Arsenal now for almost as long as you have, and I can't remember seeing a shootout before a penalty.
No, we have. We have once or twice, and it was actually funny. It was something that came up a couple seasons ago. So if you remember, the first season that you and I started watching them was the 22-23 season. It was the summer of 2023 when they went on tour in the U.S. and Reed, who you just saw a few minutes ago, and your grandson, no relation.
Not really my grandson. Right.
and my wife, we all went to see them in the Meadowlands. And that was one thing that Keith and I talked about then was they did a penalty shootout in that friendly competition as a way of simulating a real penalty shootout against another team, because that was something he knew was going to be important if he wanted to make it deep into these knockout tournaments. So it's something that you would see in the Carabao Cup, or you might see in the FA Cup, or you might see in the Champions League that we don't see in the Premier League. So
yeah, but it was nice really being able to see it like we did this last week.
Oh yeah, I'd definitely rather not see penalty shootouts. I'd rather win in regulation time if we can manage it. But yeah,
definitely.
Well, let's talk a little bit about how we ended up in penalties in the first place. I mean, I think the single most directly responsible individual for that outcome was the Crystal Palace keeper, Benitez. He was a thorn in our side the whole match. That was annoying.
Yeah, no, he was awesome. He made one really, really great save after another, and it was challenging, definitely challenging.
Yeah, and I am checking. He is Walter Benitez. So I'm trying to learn some first names when appropriate. It was actually kind of funny during the Brighton match yesterday. Reed and I watched together, and we saw Dunk on screen. He's like, "Is that Lewis Dunk?" And I was like, his first name might be Lewis, and they showed it later. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. It's because he was annoyed that he has so many duplicates of him from his trading cards from last season. So he's starting to learn names that even I don't know so well. But yeah,
listen, the trading cards are. You heard it here. They can be educational.
They're doing their job. But yeah, we had so many chances that he blocked, especially in the first half, but also in the second half, that it was just very frustrating. We should have converted more of those. But
well, listen, but we beat them when it counted, though, right?
Yeah, but I think there was one player in particular who led to the lion's share of our shots on goal across mainly the first half, because he was substituted out kind of early into the second half. But you pointed out when we were preparing before the show, Gabby Martinelli had quite a game.
Oh, I thought he had a tremendous game. I mean, he always seemed to be in the right place. At the right time, and just a real forceful presence there. I was kind of disappointed to see him not starting the game on Saturday.
But that's part of the rotation that they're doing, right? Martinelli and Trossard are more or less interchangeable right now in our configuration. And you're going to see that probably as we try to keep everybody kind of healthy and rested and firing on all cylinders when we need them. So
that's a great point. I mean, Trossard, boy, in fact, if you look at both of them, they're very, I think they have somewhat similar styles of play there, where they're taking the ball down the field and being available for passes and setting up other people. I think it's a real strength of the team these days.
Yeah. So you had mentioned when we were preparing, you noticed what I did, that the first half seemed much weaker for Palace and arguably stronger for us, but at the very least, certainly weaker for Palace. What do you think lit the fire under them in the second half?
Not wanting to get eliminated, I would guess. I mean, here at halfway through the first half, Arsenal had 70% possession. Yeah, I mean, they really dominated it, but to their credit, they really came back the second half, and it was a very contentious, well played game. I thought in the second half.
Yeah,
but like you say, much different than in the first half.
Yeah, and still, even so, it wasn't until the 80th minute that the ball actually crossed the goal line and netted an Arsenal lead, transient though it may have been. That was quite a corner kick from Saka that led to that.
I quoted the broadcaster. He called it a scruffy goal.
Yeah. Yeah, we ended up with a couple that might be described that way this week. But yeah, so and it's funny. I mean, it's like looking at Arsenal's 2-minute highlights, which I refer to when we're recording and sometimes when putting together our shorts. I mean, it's so funny that the entire regulation time of the match takes up like 36 seconds of a 2-minute highlights package just because they need to show the penalty shootout in there. But
right.
But yeah, we had the corner kick was
Oh, and keep in mind, just to your point that you just made, not only the 30 seconds, but keep in mind the stoppage time was over 10 minutes.
Right. No, that too. Yeah, it was 12 minutes roughly. Yeah. Yeah, so Saka's corner kick was well delivered. It went a little bit beyond the goal, but lofted into the air and put into a hopper. It was just a chaos in the box situation where it took viewing the replays at least a few times before you really had a sense of what had happened. And even watching the replay now, there's just so many bodies around it. It's tough to see what happened, but it ended up being credited as an own goal. But that was, I guess, Lacroix. I don't know how he pronounces his last name. He was the last one to touch it. It's hard to necessarily fault him, but it is kind of funny to do so in hindsight, looking at who ended up being the one to miss his penalty kick later. This was
right. That is funny.
But yeah, no, it's Set Piece FC returns, right?
Yeah, listen, set pieces all around. I mean, this is it's a really important part of the game.
Yeah, and not only for us, it was Gahey's goal that ended up leveling for Palace, which, by the way, am I the only one who keeps on thinking we're playing Wolves looking at their change kit? Like, it's a different shade of yellow, but as I watched these highlights, and it was like that when we were watching the match, I just kept on thinking we were playing Wolves. It's just weird. But we conceded from a set piece, as we so often do. Also, it was a free kick, but a free kick from a corner adjacent position that leaded to their goal where they drew even, and then we were like, this is why we need to convert more chances earlier in the match.
Yeah, well, it's nice to start out with. I mean, to me, this is Arsenal at its playing its game. Is it when it can score early and it can sit on a goal, ideally 2 or 3, as the game goes on. And it's nice to see them score early.
It is nice. Yeah, that isn't what happened this game because they didn't score until the 80th minute.
Exactly.
But, yeah, it's nice when it works out that way.
No, but I think just to repeat what you'd already stated, I think we can attribute that to the quality, to the game their keeper had. I mean, Arsenal had a lot of shots, a lot of opportunities, and they just couldn't convert.
Yeah, it was frustrating. It was frustrating a lot of the time. But yeah, so, then that equalizer came in the 5th minute of stoppage time out of, as we said, out of 12 minutes total, which is a lot. But there was a really severe injury at one point, right? There was the one guy who got stepped on, his ankle was bleeding, and he got carted off on a stretcher. That happened in the second half.
Right.
Chris Richards, right. I think, was the player's name for Palace. So, I mean, that alone contributed at least half of stoppage time total. But yeah, so then it went to penalties, and it was, I mean, we did great. They did well too. It wasn't until that last one, they were neck and neck. Nobody blinked until they did, and then it was over.
Yeah, I have the list here. Ødegaard, Rice, Saka, Trossard, Calafiori, Timber, and Saliba were the Arsenal.
You missed Marino. Marino was after Trossard. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean, and that tells you our priority, right? Like you basically sort your list of penalty takers by most likely to get it in. You put your strongest players first, and we got into our defensive line. Like Kepa was about to take his turn before Lacroix. Again, I don't know how to say it. I'll just say it both ways every time. But before he ended up flinching and Kepa made his brilliant save, it was looking like he was going to have to take one of his own.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So you say you don't remember another Arsenal penalty shootout. What did you think of the experience of seeing that here?
Well, I'm a lifelong hockey fan, and I'm used to seeing hockey shootouts. When they have a shootout in hockey, it's pretty much equal between the puck, the offensive player with the puck and the goalkeeper. Mm-hmm. Pretty much, I'd say more 50-50, give or take, 5 points one way or the other. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Mm-hmm. As I was watching these penalty shots, I mean, maybe it's because they're so good, all the people who are doing it, I don't know, but it just seemed like almost a given. It was almost like a endurance match to see who could be perfect the longer,
right.
And if they were to take that shot, push it back to, what is it, the 16-yard line?
18, at the edge of the 18-yard box, you're saying.
I mean, if they could push it back farther or something, make it a little bit more competitive.
Well, so remember, the penalty shootout happens, as you've observed, very rarely, right? What penalties are usually there for is when a foul happens in the 18-yard box, denying a goal-scoring chance to the opposition through foul play, right? It's designed to heavily favor the kicker. Like, it's basically the referee saying, look, you stopped them illegally from taking a shot on goal. They basically get a 90+% chance of scoring that goal, but you denied them the chance to take. It is very heavily favored toward the kicker. And that's what you want from a penalty in regular play, right?
From a penalty, yeah.
Right. And so when it comes to tie-breaking mechanisms and elimination rounds of competitions, you work with what you've got. Like, the game is set up around penalties. It's part of the game. I don't think anyone would like for there to be a totally separate skill you need to develop that only comes into play, once or twice a season. Right. I think it makes sense working with what they've got, but you're right. It does definitely change the flow of it, where it is more or less you expect to make your penalties. And it's a big deal when you don't. I mean, I remember it was in recent history when I started following the club that Saka had that hanging over him because he missed a major penalty for England. And right. He got all kinds of nasty fan response. It was a really bad situation for him as a result of missing it, because you basically do expect your penalty takers to take them. So,
well, keep in mind we're overlooking one important point of what happens when a hockey game, what they do when a hockey game ends up tied. And keep in mind, with a hockey game, it's every single game. If the game ends in hockey, you get 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie in the standings. If regulation time ends in a tie, then you go on to the tiebreakers, okay, the shootout, what have you, but they still get 1 point in the standings for having tied. Mm-hmm. So they haven't lost the game. But keep in mind, what's interesting with hockey is before they go to the shootout, they play a 5-minute period with only 3 players in front of the goalkeeper on the ice. And to me, it's some of the most fun hockey there is to watch because there's so much open space. Could you imagine a 10-minute period in international soccer where, let's say, you had 6 players out on the field or something like that.
Yeah, the problem with that for soccer is the field is so huge, right? Like at different levels of play in soccer, you have different numbers, right? When they start off as the littlest kids, they're playing like 4-on-4, right? 4v4, we would call it. Now with the level where Reed is playing, it's 7v7. And I don't know that there is like a 9v9. I think they usually go from 7 all the way up to 11, but the field size is smaller just because the ball in soccer moves so much more difficultly than the puck moves in hockey, and then the players do in hockey, right?
Right.
We don't fly in soccer, right? it's a lot harder than that to move around. So you couldn't do something like that. But the closest that you have, and it depends on the competition, some competitions do have added time before it goes to penalties. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure the Champions League does do that. I don't remember if the FA Cup does, but that's where you'd have half an hour of added time broken across 2 extra 15-minute halves. And then if it's still a draw at the end of that extra time, then it goes to penalties, which is overall, if it's a competition that warrants the extra wear and tear on your players, which I think no one really argue that's the case for the Carabao Cup. I think it's good that the Carabao Cup doesn't do that, at least in the quarterfinals. I don't remember if it's the same for the semis or the final, but when it's worth it, that is a more natural way to decide who's better when you can add time like that. It was also funny. One thing that Arsenal didn't do that Palace did was they brought in some subs late in the match to bring on their better penalty takers, right? Arsenal didn't do that. We went with the players we already had on the pitch, and part of why it looked so easy to you watching it was those were all expert level penalties. You don't see better penalty kicks than what they took. I mean, every single one of them was in a corner of the net, or a kind of, I think Marino may have done a little cheeky one that was kind of like in the middle, like not quite a Panenka, but almost a Panenka, like a Semi-Panenka. It was a demonstration of how you take penalty kicks. It was really well done.
Oh, I know. It was so much fun watching them do that. And it just makes you wonder how many times over the course of a career each one of these guys have made that same kick just in practice and in training and everything else.
Certain players more than others, right? Someone like Ødegaard or Saka, right? Like Saka's our typical penalty taker. They will have done a whole bunch of those in games and in practice because they're the ones who you would hand the ball to. Someone like Jurriën Timber, William Saliba, Ricardo Calafiori, Kepa Arrizabalaga. I mean, like these guys know. I mean, I'm sure they do it sometimes, but that's not a skill that they keep up on as much because it's just not pertinent to 99% of the matches where they play. So no, you don't see it as much with them, I would guess. But also, if you're talking about the difficulty and how it does heavily favor the kicker, I mean, there's basically 2 aspects. Remember, the keeper's feet can't leave the line until the ball has been struck, right? So you basically have to decide before the kick is taken which side you're leaping to. So either the keeper guesses right or he guesses wrong. If he guesses wrong, then it's really down to the kicker. And did he choke? That's really all it is. If he guesses right, then it's down to the skill of the penalty. If you take a penalty that goes into the top corner of a net, it doesn't matter who the keeper is, how tall he is, how early he guessed to jump the right way. There's nothing he can do. Like if you are an expert level penalty taker, and a bunch of these were expert level penalty shots, there's nothing the keeper can do that is going to be scored every time. And that's obviously, if you are someone like Saka who does it for us all the time, that's why you're practicing it so much, is to get good at doing it like that. And sometimes there's the whole gamesmanship of it, right? Where you'll be a keeper who has his notes on, Saka goes left 77% of the time versus right 23% of the time. So that's where you're probably going to go, right? But meanwhile, you've got Saka thinking, well, he knows that I go left 77% of the time. So I'm going to fake left. I'm actually going to go right. And it's like getting into your head about stuff like that is where sometimes they do mess up. They go high, they go wide. they kick it right at the keeper. Like that happens sometimes.
Well, all I got to say, it was a lot of fun watching it.
It was nerve-wracking. I mean, because ultimately, it's like the match was a draw, and they basically deserve to move on as much as we did when it comes down to it. I'm happy that we do, and that they're going home after. But it was a draw that we kind of wanted in the technicality, and it doesn't feel as good as when you actually win an open play. But that said, I mean, the fact that we won through a save rather than just them choking and blowing it, that was a great moment. Like Kepa saving that, like, holy crap, he's our backup keeper, not our main keeper. And what a moment for him. That was really something.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's got to be great for his confidence and his, his standing. So,
yeah. So Arsenal moves on to the semis. More on that later. All right, so our second match of the week was against Brighton. We played them not too long ago, so this was an interesting kind of back-to-back. I'm trying to remember, it was only a few weeks ago, I think, that we played them, but I think that was in an earlier round of the Carabao Cup most recently.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
No, I don't.
I'm looking it up as we speak. Let's see. The last time we played them was on December 20th. No, that can't be right. Oh, no. That's funny. No, I ended up on my notes for my short about Ben White, who, by the way, if you haven't watched that was released this past Friday, a profile of our number 4, currently injured, but Benjamin White. No, we played them on November 2nd, and that was in the 4th round of the Carabao Cup. So, basically the round of 16. So.
All right. All paths lead to the Carabao Cup.
Well, hey, if this can be the first trophy that we win of a season and we get a taste for it and keep piling on, I'm all for it.
Yeah, we'll take it, right?
Yeah. So this one went a little bit differently. We did get the earlier goal, but the first thing that I noticed was we had a different back line configuration. Did you see that when they were lining up before kickoff?
Yeah, Lewis Skelly Hincapié, is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah, I mean, with my slightly better Spanish pronunciation dialect, I would say Hincapié.
I think that
the H would be
like
silent, and there's an accent on the end. So Hincapié, he's Ecuadorian, but Saliba, right? But no, we didn't have a back 3. We had a back 4. We had Declan Rice in right back. Right. And that made it take a little bit longer for me to note who was playing where, because I was trying to figure out who was the right back for a while before I heard the commentators make note of, oh, yeah, Declan Rice and right back. And that's just with Benjamin White out. I don't know if Timber had a knock. He played in the Crystal Palace match, so I don't know if it was something minor. I don't remember what ended up happening with him, But yeah, so due to rotation and injury and depth concerns, I guess, we had Declan Rice.
If anything did happen to Timber the last game, he got one of the penalty goals. Yeah. So it could have been it was during the match, or it could have been in training. I don't know. It may have just been resting him. It may have just been resting him so that we have him for next week, with the matches we have coming up then, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, that was interesting. I mean, he's played center back before. He's been a center half. He's played on the back line. He hasn't always been just a central midfielder. I think he did well. I don't think we had any, until the very end, we didn't really have any major defensive lapses. We kind of had the one that led to their goal later on, where everyone just kind of fell asleep for a little bit. But well, listen, I thought that the front 3 of Ødegaard, Trossard, and Trossard, Gyökeres, and Saka. I keep waiting. It seems like Gyökeres is right on the verge of really breaking out and and doing his thing.
Yeah, on this show,
I know with the playing time.
Right. We've gone through cycles of being up on Gyökeres and down on him, and it's tough. Like what it largely, the best chance that he had in this Brighton match was a cross where Saliba kind of screened him. Saliba went to get the header and kind of blocked Gyökeres from having a good angle on it. Otherwise, that could have been a goal. But yeah, that's what we always see with him is almost shots and almost goals. And it's tough to say what's causing that. The things that we've talked about on the show before would be the team not necessarily trusting or knowing to anticipate where he's going to be. It could be that his timing is off, where he's just making his runs a little bit late or a little bit early. But, hopefully the more he plays, they do get that ironed out and he comes back in 2026 and notches a few more goals on his belt. But yeah, so far, not quite where we want him to be.
Well, I'll tell you, it was great seeing Ødegaard out there.
Yeah, he's continued doing well. I mean, we may as well talk about it. Was his goal was what started off the scoring for this match. That was a nice one at range.
Oh yeah, well here he was set up by Saka,
right,
and I love the way he approached it. It looked like he was going to shoot left, and then he gave him the look to the left, like we were talking about with the penalty shots. He gave him the look to the left, and then went to the right. Yeah. So yeah.
That was well done. But we don't necessarily always depend on our midfielders for goals, but it's nice when they're able to do it. So yeah, that was a beautiful one. It was right in the corner. There are definitely parallels to the penalties. I mean, it was right in the corner, even though the keeper leapt in the right direction, he just couldn't quite make it in time to block it. Yeah, it was well done.
Yeah. So. And I thought Trossard had a great first half. He had possession of the ball a lot. And he was setting players up. I thought he did very well.
Yeah, definitely. I know I need to remind Reed frequently that he's not as old as he looks.
What?
I need to remind him all the time that Trossard is not as old as he looks with his hair color. He's only 8 years old, so everybody looks old to him no matter what. But he can't tell the difference between a 20-something-year-old's face and a 40-something-year-old's face. He just sees the grayish hair. So. But yeah, it was good to get the early goal, which definitely ended up coming in handy later on once they got theirs. But yeah, it was definitely a dominant first half. I think if a couple plays had gone just a little bit differently, we were easily ahead 2 or 3 at halftime and cruising through the second half, which ended up being a little bit more of a slog than I would have liked to see.
Right, everything was going great till they scored their goal in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, first let's talk about with Rice. So we had a Rice corner kick that very similar to the Saka corner kick against Crystal Palace. Just it wasn't quite as chaotic in the box, but it was an own goal from a corner kick. So a different way that we're becoming experts in scoring from set pieces, making the other team do the work for us.
Right. That was at about 52 minutes, I think, of the second half.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was he can place that ball. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. I think if that player hadn't have been in the way, it might have gone in on its own.
Well, it was an in-swinger. I don't know that it had quite enough bend to make it all the way. I think there's a good case to be made that another Arsenal player would have gotten a critical touch on it. But yeah, no, it's you appreciate Rice's corner kicks best when he's not playing and we have other players taking them from that side, and you see them going short, going long. But yeah, he's him and Saka both. When they're healthy and they've been doing it for a while, you can tell when they've been injured and been out for a little bit and they come back and they're a little rusty. But when they're in their typical form, yeah, and there's no one better for taking those, and that clearly affects how we became Set Piece FC. Did you notice Declan Rice's long throw attempts this match?
Yeah, I did.
One in particular, I don't even know if it made it into the 18-yard box. It landed really short.
Well,
so that's not quite there
I wonder
yet.
if that is something. Are they just starting? Are they working on that, do you think? Or
Well, talking with Keith about it, to do the long throws, you need somebody who's capable of taking those throws long. When we've had Christian Norgard playing, we didn't see him this week, but when we've had him playing, he seems to be able to get the ball a good distance. We've had Declan Rice do it a little bit before, I think not quite as successfully as Norgard. But it's something that would be another great source of set piece goals if we could get those throws placed the way that we need to. But
absolutely.
Especially there's no offside to worry about. It's like compared to from a free kick, it's like from a corner kick where you can't be offside when it's a throw in. So,
and it seems like the ball does tend to go out of bounds a lot in that corner type area over there on the sideline.
Well, sure, because you have someone who's defending their goal and trying not to concede a corner kick, so they kick it out over the touch line instead to try and save the corner kick opportunity. So,
right. Well, yeah. I mean, they need to put it on their list to work on.
Yeah. So then working our way through the match, the next major event was their goal where I don't know what happened in my mind. I forgot the second goal and I spent a few minutes after they scored thinking that they drew even, like flashing back to Crystal Palace and thinking that this was going to end in a draw, that we were dropping points. And then I noticed, oh wait, no, it's 2-1. I forgot a goal. Oh my God. It's like we scored all over again. I got that same feeling.
Right. That was the one that rebounded off the post. Right.
Yeah. That was frustrating. There was a long lapse that left to that one. And yeah, in the immediate aftermath, it bounces off the post. They rebound. And I don't, was it the first or was it the second rebound? Yeah, it was the first rebound. I'm watching it now. Yeah, but yeah, they get it off the rebound. But before that shot that hit the post, they'd been in our box for a while. It was, you just got that feeling again that they were going to score from it. And we had another one that came not long after that where they were in that same kind of position and took a shot on goal that you nearly soil yourself looking at it, and Raya leapt to the rescue and pushed it clear of the crossbar to save that from becoming a chance. But we were falling asleep at the wheel toward the end there. They came back to life and we weren't stopping them at all.
Well, it seems like when you got about 25 minutes left in the game, let's say about 75 minutes in or something like that. No, that's not right. You're like in the last 15. No, it starts at about 65 minutes or so when they start putting in all of the substitutions. You got fresh people out there. You've often got some very skilled people out there, and they know this is their last chance, and they're motivated and they're energetic, and you have to be ready for that onslaught. You have to expect that, hey, this is their last ditch effort, and they're going to give it everything that they've got, and you have to be able to meet them on those terms and to push them back.
Yeah,
and you can sometimes find opportunity in that situation where if they've got everybody down rushing the goal, now all of a sudden you get the ball, you can get it down to somebody, and they might have some open real estate between them and their goal. So, I think it's just something that they shouldn't ignore.
Yeah, no, it's a good thought. I hadn't noted their recent subs leading up to the goal and then that other shot 10 minutes later. That's a good thought. But they weren't alone with their subs. We had a few subs of our own, including in the 71st minute when Gabriel Magalhães came back, as well as Gabriel Jesus. And this is the first time in a year or longer that we had all three of our Gabbies on the pitch at the same time, which was really something. So,
yeah.
Oh, actually, slight correction. Gabriel Martinelli didn't come on until the 82nd minute. It was 10 minutes later when we had all of them on. I forgot he didn't start, but they did all make it. And yeah, if my searching yielded an accurate result, it was December 21st, a year ago, in our 5-1 win against Palace, if that is correct, that all three of them played in an Arsenal match together. I think maybe they played a little bit more recently than that for Brazil, possibly, from my searches indicated, but for us at least, it looks like it was about a year ago. So, whew, yeah, it's been a rough one.
Yeah, and we had some opportunities. I think at about 84 minutes, Saka took the ball all the way down the field, passed it off to Martinelli, who just barely missed. But the possession in the second half was almost even. I think it was 52-48.
Yeah, that was the last one that I saw. Yeah.
So I mean, they really stepped up. I mean, they didn't want to lose. Unsurprisingly.
No, they've been a tough opponent over the years. It's they're not a pushover. We hopefully will have some players coming back in the next couple months that kind of help get us back up to full strength, where we can compete better against these teams and not have these white knuckle matches that get down to the wire like this. But yeah, who is your player of the week?
Okay, my player of the week. I'm a little bit torn. The Palace game, if I were going to name a player of the game, it would have been Martinelli, probably. With Eze, I liked as a strong second, but he didn't get that much playing time in the game, Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go with the player who I thought was the most consistently high energy, high involvement, great plays, ball handling, passing, shooting, was Bukayo Saka.
Yeah, good shouts.
He's so consistent. He was so consistently good through in my opinion, such a high level for both games. That's who I'm going with, the Saka.
Yeah, no, good choices on both. I mean, for Martinelli, it was interesting. Against Palace, he didn't have so many direct shots on his own, but he had so many assists. It was really valuable. He was doing everything he could to get that ball to someone who could score in that match, where, it was maybe a lot of other people's faults that we didn't score more than we did and then it went to penalties, but not his. He's blameless in that.
Yeah, and we were talking about how we're eagerly anticipating Gyökeres stepping up to a more vital role in the offense. I'll tell you who I think made some steps in that direction against Palace was Eze. I thought he did great, and I was looking at that. I was looking at his performance as indication of him really starting to step up to where I'm sure they anticipated he would be when they got him.
Yeah, and in this week's match, I didn't really notice Eze so much. But yeah, across other matches, definitely I've seen what you're talking about. Ultimately, though, if Eze is doing everything that we want him to be, it's still a different type of contribution than what we're looking for from Gyökeres,
Right.
But yeah, and absolutely, in the Brighton match, Saka was it by a mile, like definitely. For my pick, though, I'm going in a slightly different and unorthodox direction. You know, it's fun making the rules so that every so often I can break them. I agree with you about Martinelli and Saka as far as at least outfield players go for this week. But to me, there were two make or break moments this week, one in each match. In the Palace match, Kepa's save of that penalty kick won us the match. And it's seldom so black and white as that. But it absolutely was. He made the save. That was it. We won. We walked off the pitch, right? Huge moment for him as someone who doesn't see a lot of action for Arsenal. You know, that's a really big moment for a cup keeper to win the cup like that. That was huge. But it's also kind of tough to give him player of the week when he is our cup keeper and didn't play at all against Brighton. Thankfully, Raya stepped up, and with that save that he made late in the match, pushing that one strong shot up over the crossbar, he prevented it going to a draw. He earned us 2 points with that save. That was huge. That was an amazing, athletic, aerobatic save, a reflexive save that he should never have had to make if our defense hadn't lapsed the way that it did. But so for this week, I'm going to collectively give the keepers our player of the week, Kepa and Raya.
Well, right. You're just saying that the player of the week is the keeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So thank you, España, for giving us our keeper and backup keeper. That's
how do you pronounce his name again?
Well, you've got the Castilian lisp, so it's Kepa Arrizabalaga.
Oh, Arrizabalaga.
Arrizabalaga. You got to trill the R and lisp your Z, and then you're at least closer than what it might look like at face value.
I'll take your word for it.
All right, so after this week, let's talk tables a little bit. So the Premier League didn't really change, at least for us, so much. The top three are the same. We've got ourselves. We're top of the table at 42 points. We've got Manchester City still kind of barking up our trail at 40 points, and Aston Villa at 39. So the top three are decided by a spread of 3 points amongst us. So that's still really close competition up at the top. Liverpool has clawed their way back up. They have 3 successive wins. They're in good form. Chelsea also lost, so they swapped. And so Liverpool still, though, at number 4 is 10 points behind us. So, it would still take a lot for them to really be in the discussion for winning the league at this point. But yeah, things look mostly the same as last week. And as a reminder for anyone who's not following super closely, we have in the Carabao Cup now secured our spot in a semifinal. We're going to play Chelsea. We're going to play them away for the first leg and then home for the second leg. And on the other side of the bracket, you've got Newcastle and Manchester City. So I don't know which team I would rather face. I mean, on the one hand, in general, in the abstract, I might prefer Newcastle, but it's also fresh in my mind watching them knock us out in the semifinal round last year. Do you remember you and I watched that match together? I think maybe live. It was while we were at Disney World last year. And so, yeah, in this competition, Newcastle eliminated us, and it was not even that close. Like, they pretty soundly defeated us.
So we've got good reasons to take on either one of them. I think as far as Manchester City goes, I think, you know what? You're chasing us in the table. Let's put an end to it. Let's have it out right here.
Well, sort of. I mean, defeating them in the Carabao Cup doesn't help our position in the Premier League table. I mean, we can assert some level of dominance over them, but it doesn't move the table.
It's a psychological thing, though,
Yeah. All right, so I think over the last week, paying attention and taking notes in a little more detail than you might ordinarily do, a couple questions and thoughts have come up. What was the first one on your list?
Yeah, I had forgotten. I know that it was discussed in a previous release of episode of Gooner U. What's the story with the kids who come out every? I'm sure I heard it before, but I just can't recall what it was. Can you remind me of that?
Yeah. So the name they're given as a category is mascots, which is kind of funny from an American sports perspective because we think of like Benny the Bull or Mr. Met, things like that, like kind of people dressed in plush suits that look like funny characters to get kids into the game, right? But this is a different way of getting kids into the game, where basically you have kids who belong to local clubs in the area where the club is that come out and get to spend some time with the big boys, basically. I've even seen that at Kingston Stockade, like Kingston area, and probably the broader Hudson Valley. I don't think it would be out of the question for a Rhinebeck player like my son to possibly come out as a mascot. But it's usually something that's worked out with that organization. Like they'll say, hey, we want to feature kids from your club as our mascots this week. Do they want to come out and, they just get to walk out on the pitch with the players and hold their hands for a little bit. And it's, it's just kind of engendering an even deeper love of the sport with them.
Have you ever heard any feedback from the kids or from their parents in terms of any, the impact that it's had or anything like that?
never looked into it too deeply. Okay. But it's the kind of thing that'd be really cool. If we lived in London, it's something I'd really love for my son to get the chance to do. It would be a really cool thing. But yeah.
Yeah, another question I had was, and I'm every time we watch a game together, it's like I'm always complaining about the same thing to you. So you've heard this 100 times from me, is about the way that they flop on the ground. Mm-hmm. I think about sports that I've either that I've watched or that I'm familiar with, like football or. I've been watching some rugby lately with your brother-in-law as a big rugby fan. Mm-hmm. And I look at, my goodness, even basketball. Basketball is a very rough sport if you watch the way they play it. And no self-respecting NBA player would ever, do what I see some of these guys doing. And to me, it's just, I don't know, it's self-respect as a professional athlete.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. So I have a few counterpoints to what you bring up, which is all valid. Like everything you're saying is true. And yet there is good reason for the way that it's done. First of all, soccer pitch is huge and outdoors. Refs are often far away from a piece of contact that leads to some kind of injury. They may not hear you. They may not see it clearly, right? Your own team's staff may not see and hear clearly. So making some kind of spectacle, pounding your fist on the ground, rolling around, you need some way of getting attention on yourself, right? Like, could there be a better way? I don't know. What do you want them to carry, like flare guns and like send up a flare when they're injured or something, like in the Hunger Games? I don't know.
I'm not talking about injuries. Injuries are a whole different thing.
But that's,
I'm talking
about
part of it, if you go like this and I'm going to lay down on the ground.
So when it comes to that, I think basketball is probably the most fair comparison in more popular American sports. Because when you're talking about hockey or football, they're very heavily padded. And that accounts for at least some of the attitude. If you talk about hockey and football decades ago...
Keep in mind, the hockey padding is mostly for protection from the puck. You've got a hard plastic shin guard. And
you've got hip pads, you've got shoulder pads. You're pretty insulated from contact from other players.
But not all of them. The shoulder pads are like maybe this thick. They're they're almost like nothing. And they really don't wear all that much.
But regardless, though, the fact is, when there's contact on you, you want the ref to make that call. You want your team to maintain the advantage. And this is something that Keith has pointed out. And the reason that coaches teach players to do that in the first place is because the stakes are high enough. You want that foul. You want to do everything you can to make your case to the referee that it was severe.
But does that really impact the official?
Not in a conscious way. I'm sure they try not to let it affect them, but it can't help but affect the way that they look at the play to see a reaction. Now, there are astute officials who are not swayed by it, and you see it happen every match, right? Like a lot of stuff goes uncalled even when someone is writhing around on the field, right? But there has to be some case out there where it's made a difference. And if it's at all possible for it to make a difference, you owe it to yourself to try and get that advantage for it, But that's ultimately what it comes down to. I think in addition, like I said, like if you're at all hurt and you want attention, like you need to writhe around in a way that looks baby-like and comical, but you need to... I can't think of a better way. I don't know what else you can do. You can't stand up a lot of the time because a lot of these injuries are to your lower extremities, like your ankle, your foot, your shin, your whatever it is, your calf, where they happen to get you. It's tough. I don't know what would be a way around it. Ultimately, there is a yellow card for diving, right? Like if the referee sees you go down, especially in the penalty box, but if they see you go down where there is very obviously little to no contact, we've seen diving yellow cards given. I've seen that happen, and sometimes it's frustrating because it doesn't feel like it was deserved when it's our player who's doing the dive. And surely there are times where we've seen the other team's players go down when it looks to us like it should be a dive and isn't called that way. But yeah, it is a part of the game. I think in basketball, you do see it somewhat, right? You'll see guys go flying through the air in basketball and go sliding on the court. And then because it's basketball played on a hardwood court, you see staff come in afterwards with their towels and mop up the sweat. So it's not a slipping hazard. It does happen there, but you're right that it's not the same. But I think also in basketball, it's a smaller court. The referee is always closer on average to anything that happens and is able to see it better and also hear what's going on better. So you might not need the level of theatricality to it, All
right. So I just came up with one additional question to ask you that we didn't discuss ahead of time.
Doing it live. All right.
Yeah, and I think I have mentioned this to you in the past. One thing that I wish that they did differently, and I don't know about any of the other leagues or international play or anything like that, but it always seems strange whenever I watch the Premier League players and I don't see the name of the club or a logo on the on
the shirt front, on the main part of the shirt.
On the shirt front. How much money is it that they would be losing if they went to that? What about
enough that no one does it is the short version.
What about the prestige of the league? What about the poor fans who may be watching and not always know what the different, sometimes when the play's near the goalkeeper, you don't always know which direction they're going, at least, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, okay. So when it comes to differentiating the clubs, if you look at the score bug, that's the name for the on-screen graphic that shows you the score, right? Which I didn't realize until coverage from, I think it was this current year's Super Bowl, like almost a year ago now, where there was a new carrier showing it in the United States, and they had a different score bug. I think it was Fox, but I don't want to say for sure. Apparently the score bug is a fairly modern sports telecast invention coming about in the mid to late 90s, if I recall correctly. You would remember better than I do. Like they didn't used to always have the score on screen at all times. You'd have to wait for them to show it or say it. It wasn't something that you could just flip on a game and immediately know what you're walking into. You need to wait for a while to know what was going on.
Oh, you're talking about going back quite a few years.
Yeah. But still, like relatively modern in sports history. If you go back, decades, that wasn't the case. More than a couple decades. So, but if you look at the score bug for any soccer telecast, it will always be color coded. You'll see Arsenal in the red and white or whatever change kit we're wearing. You'll always see that, right? The colors matter so much more, especially in soccer. Think about the shot that they're showing almost all game long, every single game. You're zoomed out so far, it doesn't matter what's on the front of a shirt. You can't read it anyway, right?
When you're telling me this, I agree with you, but all I can think of is your grandfather, may he rest in peace, who had to wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning to ask him if his socks matched because he was colorblind.
Right. But regardless, what I'm trying to say though is the shots in soccer are from such a wide angle because you want to see what's going on all over this very large pitch that they're playing on. You wouldn't be able to tell what's on the shirt front anyway. And part of it too is if you look at the traditional design of soccer shirts going back to before they were sponsored. And I'll put a link into a really nice resource that Keith has given me before of historical Arsenal kits. This is a site that this guy maintains where you can just kind of scroll through all the designs in an abstract graphical form. They're like redrawings of them, like kind of distilled to their essential elements where you can see what it looks like going all the way back in history. But for the longest time with Arsenal and just about every other English club, and therefore probably many clubs in countries throughout the world, the only graphical element on the front of a shirt for a long time was just a small crest in the corner anyway.
Okay.
So you had this massive canvas that could be used for advertising that was not being used for anything. And if they're going to pay you millions of dollars to advertise there, why would you turn that down? And especially once other clubs start doing it, that becomes a competitive disadvantage for you at that point when they're making the money off of it and you're not. Now, some counterpoints to your take on it. First of all, I think it was nice. The Miami's archive kit for Inter Miami FC in the United States, they had this teal kit that I got Reed that he wears sometimes where it was really nice. It does say Miami on the front, like you might see on a basketball jersey or something. It says Miami on the front and a font that would look at home in the show Miami Vice or something like that, kind of classical. I don't know if it's quite deco, but kind of deco-ish font that they use. And then the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, I think, is their shirt sponsor. That was relegated to the butt sponsorship, as I call it, where it's at the shirt bottom on the back, right?
Okay.
Now, yes, I think that makes the shirt look a lot nicer to wear when you're a fan, definitely. What you also see in other poorer leagues outside of England, outside of the United States, when you watch Liga MX clubs, like I've seen in the League's Cup, right, Mexico's top division, they have shirt front sponsors and shirt butt sponsors, right? Like they have both because they need the extra money. Like they're a poorer league. Their clubs need that extra sponsorship revenue. So, you know, it depends on the club. And the fact that in the Premier League, you just have the shirt front and the shirt sleeve, that's less than other leagues have. And I don't know if that's restricted by the Premier League or if it's just a convention that they follow. But also, look at American sports. I don't know when the last time you watched MLB or NBA is, but they have shirt sleeve sponsors in MLB. They have batting helmet sponsors in MLB baseball. In basketball in the NBA, they have the loop on the one side of their sleeveless jersey has a little sponsor on it now. Like they're incorporating elements of that into American sports, clearly because the money is there, tastefulness aside.
Well, but it's always secondary to their main branding.
That's true. But I think one other big difference also for me, looking with fresher eyes at American sports, a Bulls jersey from today is virtually indistinguishable, aside from that little element that they've added for the sponsorships, from a jersey that I would have seen on the 1990s back-to-back twice over winning championships teams, right? Like, the Bulls jerseys from then look the same. The Cubs jerseys from back then look the same.
You're referring to the three-peat repeat?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, thank you. That was not at the tip of my tongue, but yeah, like their jerseys just don't change. They look the same for years and years, right? Compared to with soccer, it's a fashion statement, and they change every year. They have 3 new kits in the Premier League every year, right? MLS is a little bit less. They have like 1 new kit a year, except for Miami. They make exceptions for Miami because it's the highest selling kit that they have. But most clubs, you get 1 new kit a year. They don't change their home and away every year. It's just the way that it's done. I mean, but what's also kind of fun, a side effect of having the sponsorships is when they change. When you see an Arsenal jersey where JVC is the sponsor, you know what era that's from, right? When you see Sega Dreamcast as the sponsor, you know what era that's from. When you see Fly Emirates compared to Emirates Fly Better, right? Like those things kind of tell you at first glance, even if you don't recognize that individual player, it tells you something about where in the history of the club that jersey slots, you know? So it's not all bad. Although, yes, I would rather not be a walking billboard.
Well, and changing it every year means that they're going to sell more every single year.
Well, sure, exactly. And also, that's one of the reasons that having national team kits is nice. Like my Team USA and Team Argentina jerseys don't have any sponsorships. They just don't do that because you're basically wearing your flag at that point, and it would be too gross where it's not worth it to any country out there to put a sponsorship on your jersey for the national teams. So that's a little different.
All right. Well, thank you for clearing that up for me.
No problem. Coming up next week, we have 2 different Premier League matches, which is interesting, I guess, getting some in there before the FA Cup starts, because once the FA Cup starts, all the Premier League clubs are going to have an extra match in the week, and they may have, possibly for Champions League participants, multiple matches aside from the Premier League going on. But anyway, we are going to play Aston Villa at home on Tuesday. That is going to be on the NBC Sports Network, which is starting to work its way into the rotation. Incidentally, it does seem like that means it does not stream live on Peacock. You need to be on the NBC Sports app for that one. Then on Saturday, we travel to Bournemouth. That match will be on NBC, which in my experience means it does stream live on Peacock. And those should be some interesting matches. I mean, Aston Villa, that's a big one for us. Like we said, like that is a potentially title affecting match, right? They're in third. They win, we lose. They jump over us by 3 points, or I guess draw even with us. They draw even. If we win, then we're 6 points clear of them. If we draw, then they close the gap and City leaps over us, assuming that they win their match. So high stakes there. That's going to be a good one to watch. Bournemouth, you know, every match for us with our precarious position at the top right now definitely affects our title chances. But that one, you know, as much as any other, Bournemouth can be a challenge sometimes. So we'll be playing the Cherries on Saturday. Thanks for joining us at Gooner U. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also listen to the podcast version of our show on Apple, Spotify, and some other places. If you're only listening, try watching us on YouTube with the link in the show notes. Your homework for today is to subscribe to our show wherever you're hearing these words. And for some extra credit, seek us out on a platform where we post our weekday shorts. That could be YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, or Threads. We record the show using Zencaster. If you'd like to try it out, you can support Gooner U by signing up using the link in the description, which also has links to everything we talked about and our socials. Again, my name is Dove, and you can find me on Twitter at Dove Frankel. With me this time is Israel, and you can find him somewhere down in Texas.
Somewhere down in Texas, that's where I want to be.